What up, doe? Welcome to the D. From the concrete of Gratiot to the hustle of 7 Mile. From the parties at Hart Plaza to the late nights on Jefferson. This is Detroit Tales and Stories, where the Motor City's realest stories come alive. We're taking you back to when the streets had their own rules, when your whip spoke louder than words, and when survival meant everything. The mid-'80s to the 2000s, when Detroit was raw, uncut, and unforgettable. These are the stories they don't tell you about, straight from the heart of the D. Detroit Tales and Stories. Real stories, real Detroit, real talk. Beautiful Addiction, a Detroit Chronicles story. The bass from LL Cool J's Mama Said It Knock You Out rattled the windows of Devonte's pearl white 1993 Cadillac Eldorado as he pulled up to 7 Mile Party Store. The 22-year-old stepped out wearing fresh white Air Jordans, crisp Dickies, and a Tommy Hilfiger polo that hugged his lean but muscular frame. Gold teeth glinted in the afternoon sun as he adjusted the heavy rope chain around his neck, a piece that cost more than most cats made in 6 months. "Aye, Dev," hollered Big Mike from the store's entrance, bulletproof glass reflecting the harsh Detroit summer light. "You heard about that new broad down at Players Paradise?" Devonte dapped up his homeboy, both men instinctively scanning the parking lot for anything out of place. The paranoia was real. Federal task forces had been snatching up players left and right, and the streets were getting hotter by the day. New girl? Shit. "You know I don't trick off my money like that," Dev lied, knowing damn well he'd been spending heavy at the strip club on Gratiot Avenue. The combination of powder and pussy had been draining his pockets faster than he cared to admit. Nah, this different though. Word is she used to dance at some upscale spot in Atlanta before she came up here, got that southern charm, body like a Coke bottle, and face pretty enough to be in somebody's music video. They calling her Angel. Devonte's curiosity was piqued, but he played it cool. Business first. He nodded toward the store. "You got that thing ready?" Mike led him around back where a dusty blue Buick sat with its trunk already popped. Inside, wrapped in plastic and towels, were 10 kilos of the purest Colombian white Detroit had seen in months. The smell of the cocaine mixed with the summer heat and motor oil created an intoxicating aroma that meant one thing: money. "My connect down in Miami say this batch is so clean, it'll have fiends talking to Jesus," Mike whispered, constantly checking over his shoulder. "But it's gonna cost you." "How much we talking?" "22 each, cash only." Devonte did the math quickly, $220,000 for the lot. Once he cooked it down and cut it right, he could easily triple his investment. The crack epidemic had Detroit fiends moving like zombies through the neighborhoods, and Dev had built a solid customer base running from his grandmother's house on Connor Street to the projects off Gratiot. "All right, but I need you to front me 2 of them joints. I'll have your money by Friday." Mike hesitated. Fronting drugs was dangerous business, especially with the feds breathing down everyone's neck. But Dev had always been solid, never shorted him, never brought heat, and always moved product fast. "All right, but if you burn me..." "Man, when have I ever burned you? I'm trying to eat, not play games." They made the exchange quickly, Devonte's practiced hands moving the wrapped packages from the Buick's trunk to the hidden compartment he'd had installed in his caddy. The modification cost him $3,000, but it was worth every penny to keep the product hidden from prying eyes. As he drove away from the party store, his pager started buzzing like crazy. 3 different numbers, all coded messages from his street soldiers. Business was booming, but something in his gut told him to be extra careful. The streets had been too quiet lately, and in Detroit, quiet usually meant the calm before the storm. Chapter 2, Angel's Paradise. That night, Devonte found himself pushing through the heavy doors of Players Paradise. The smell of cigarettes, cheap cologne and feminine perfume hitting him like a wave. The club's interior was bathed in red and purple neon, casting everything in a surreal glow that made the already dangerous atmosphere feel even more electric. WJLB was pumping through the sound system. I Get Around by 2PAC had the crowd hyped as girls moved like liquid gold around chrome poles. But Dev's attention was immediately drawn to the main stage where a caramel-skinned goddess with long flowing hair was working magic to the rhythm. Angel. She moved with the confidence that separated her from the other dancers. No desperate grinding or over-the-top theatrics. Just pure hypnotic sensuality that had every man in the club mesmerized. Her body was perfect, curves in all the right places, smooth skin that seemed to glow under the stage lights, and eyes that held secrets worth killing for. Damn, Dev muttered under his breath, unconsciously reaching for the thick roll of hundreds in his pocket. I told you, nigga. Mike appeared beside him, already halfway drunk off Hennessy. That bitch is something special. Been trying to get at her for weeks, but she don't mess around with local cats. Word is, she only dates businessmen, lawyers, doctors, that type of shit. Devonte watched as Angel finished her set, collecting bills with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. There was pain there. He could see it. Something had brought her to Detroit, and it wasn't just the money. How much for a private dance? He asked the waitress, a thick red bone with surgical enhancements. Angel don't do private dances, baby. She's different from the other girls. Everything got a price, Dev said, sliding a crisp 100 across the table. Tell her Devonte from Connor Street wants to talk business. 20 minutes later, he found himself in a dimly lit VIP booth with Angel sitting across from him, her legs crossed elegantly, still wearing the sheer outfit from her performance. So you're the one who's been asking about me, she said, her voice carrying a slight southern accent that made his dick jump. I heard you're not just another trick looking to waste my time. Depends on what you heard, Dev replied, trying to play it smooth despite feeling like a teenager with his first crush. Angel leaned forward slightly, her perfume, something expensive and exotic, filling his nostrils. I heard you're a businessman, the kind who handles serious weight and doesn't play games. The conversation had taken an unexpected turn. Most strippers wanted to talk about anything except the streets, but Angel seemed genuinely interested in his operation. Why you want to know about my business? Because I'm trying to get into business myself, she said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I'm tired of shaking my ass for singles and fives. I want real money, and from what I hear, you're the type of man who can make that happen. Devonte studied her face carefully. In his line of work, trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, especially with someone he just met. But something about Angel felt different, desperate in a way that suggested she wasn't working for the police. What kind of business you thinking about? Angel glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned even closer. I got connections in Atlanta. High-end clientele who paid top dollar for premium product. Executives, athletes, entertainment industry types. They don't want to deal with street-level dealers, but they'll pay triple the normal rate for discretion and quality. The proposition was tempting. Dev's operation was already generating serious cash, but expanding into Atlanta's upscale market could take things to another level. Still, mixing business with pleasure was dangerous, and he was already feeling the pull of attraction toward this mysterious woman. Let me think about it, he said, standing to leave. Don't think too long, Angel replied, her hand brushing against his as she passed him a small piece of paper. I won't be in Detroit much longer if I can't find the right opportunity. Chapter 3, The Setup. Over the next 3 weeks, Devonte found himself returning to Players Paradise, almost nightly. Each visit, Angel would share more details about her Atlanta connections, painting a picture of easy money and unlimited potential. She was smart, articulate, and seemed to understand the drug game better than most cats who'd been in it for years. But it wasn't just business that kept pulling him back. Angel had a way of making him feel like more than just another street dealer. She listened when he talked about his dreams of getting out the game, maybe buying a legitimate business or moving down south. She understood the pressure he felt supporting his sick grandmother and younger sister, and she never judged him for the choices he'd made. Their relationship evolved from strictly business to something more intimate. Angel would come by his grandmother's house on Connor Street after her shifts, bringing groceries and helping cook Sunday dinner. She was respectful to his family, charming his grandmother with stories about growing up in Mobile, Alabama, and patient with his 8-year-old sister's endless questions. The sex was incredible. Angel moved with the same hypnotic rhythm in bed that she displayed on stage, but with a passion that seemed genuine rather than performed. She would whisper sweet words in his ear, telling him how different he was from other men, how safe she felt in his arms. It was during one of these intimate moments that she finally opened up about her past. "I wasn't always a dancer," she said, tracing circles on his chest as they lay in his bed, the summer heat making their bodies stick together. "I used to be married to this businessman in Atlanta. Had a big house in Buckhead, drove a Mercedes, wore designer clothes every day." "What happened?" Dev asked, genuinely interested. Angel's expression darkened. "Marcus, that was my husband. He got caught up in some bad investments, started borrowing money from dangerous people to keep his business afloat. When he couldn't pay them back..." She didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. Devonte had seen enough violence in the streets to understand what happened to people who owed the wrong kind of money. They killed him. Worse, they made him watch while they took turns with me. Then they beat him so bad he ended up in a wheelchair, completely dependent on others for everything. Told him that was his punishment for trying to play in the big leagues without understanding the rules. The story explained the pain Dev had seen in her eyes that first night. It also made him more protective of her, more willing to believe that she needed him as much as he was starting to need her. "That's why I ended up here," Angel continued. "Had to get away from Atlanta, start over somewhere. Nobody knew my story. Dancing was the only way I could make enough money to survive." "You don't have to dance anymore," Dev said, pulling her closer. "I got enough money to take care of both of us." "I don't want to be taken care of," she replied firmly. "I want to be a partner. That's why this Atlanta connection is so important. We could build something together, Devonte, something real." Against his better judgment, Dev found himself agreeing to her plan. They would make one run to Atlanta, test the waters with her high-end clientele, and see if the profits justified the risk. He should have listened to the voice in his head telling him it was too good to be true. Saint surviving his sentence. Real redemption required facing the consequences of breaking the code that had once defined him. That's another chapter from the Tales and Stories, fam. If these stories take you back to the D you remember, or help you understand the D you never knew, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Drop a comment and tell us your Detroit story. What block you claimed, what party store you remember, what ride you were pushing. Follow us on the gram at Detroit Tales and Stories for behind-the-scenes content and rare photos from the era. Until next time, keep the D alive in your heart. Peace.